Hello and welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing. This is a show where I talk with business owners and leaders about marketing mistakes, mishaps, and things that just didn't quite go as planned. But most importantly, we share the lessons learned for you. I'm your host, I'm Christy Mitchell. I'm a marketing strategist, and I love working with mission-driven, client-centered service providers who have relied on referrals and word of mouth to build their business, and they know in order to grow for the future and have a greater impact, they need to finally think more strategically about their marketing. Today, I am so excited to welcome Karen Grill to the show. Karen is a business coach and email strategist who helps small business owners fix the email mistakes that are quietly costing them clients. You could tell why I decided to bring her on the show. She specializes in authentication and deliverability, making sure emails actually reach the inbox so they can drive revenue. After 15 years supporting solopreneurs and coaches, she's seen that most business owners treat email like a task to check off rather than an asset to grow. Love to dive into that more in our conversation today. Karen teaches a simple approach that combines strategy, proper technical setup, and trust-building messaging so email becomes a consistent and reliable part of a business's marketing system. With that, I will welcome Karen to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Christy. I'm happy to be here and talk about email marketing.
Yes, your favorite topic, I know, because you and I originally met on LinkedIn, and I have always known you as an email marketing expert. So when we talked about having you come on the show, I was really excited because I know a handful of people who specialize in email marketing, but you are the only person I know who focuses on authentication and deliverability. And so today I'm really excited to have a conversation. We'll probably start with that, but then kind of work into other marketing mistakes that you see your clients making, because I think that this is so incredibly important for business owners. So I'm going to kick it over to you in terms of common mistakes that you see clients making on email marketing. Specifically, let's dive into authentication and deliverability. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, so first of all, I think so many people, especially small business owners, don't even know that they need to do this, right? And I fault partly, Gmail and Yahoo really started this. They wanted to have these new standards. And I think we can all get behind them because they're trying to reduce spam, spoofing, phishing, all those horrible things. So I think we can all agree with that. But I think they weren't good at communicating what we as business owners needed to do. So I think just first of all, most don't even know they need to be doing anything.
Yes.
And then they'll come to me when things are going to spam or they're not getting delivered. So I think just education is huge.
Yes. And on that, Karen, I just want to, because I can't remember now, but I'm sure you know this. When did all of these big changes happen?
So like the big meetings started at the end of 2023 in October, but they didn't start. They started talking about it like in February and started implementing certain ones. And then by June, everything was in, and they said they're going to start penalizing. So June of 2024.
Okay. So here we are at the time of this conversation, a year and a half after that, after these changes took effect, and you and I both are still seeing lots of businesses who haven't gotten on board and figured this out and made it a priority.
Yes, unfortunately. Like I said, I don't think they communicated what we needed to do. And even the email service providers, so, whether it's MailChimp or MailerLite or whoever you use, they were kind of scrambling to get this in place. It didn't give them much time to do so. And so at the very beginning, I don't think they did a great job. You had to do it manually. Now that most of them have set up tools to kind of assist you and making sure you have the right records in place. And again, unfortunately, they didn't give them enough time that they could have standardized the whole thing. That would have been so nice if it was the same for every email service provider, but of course it's not. So you really, I think always the first place for people to start is first start with your email service provider, see what information they have for you and follow their setup rules. And I will say that all of them are incomplete. They don't give you all the information, but that's the first place as a small business owner to start.
And with that, Karen, I always like to be mindful of that the listeners coming to the show might be like all over the board in terms of experience and, understanding of the topics that we're talking about. And so we are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is this is applying to marketing emails. So these platforms, like you said, like MailChimp, MailerLite, Constant Contact, all of those, where you're sending out mass emails to your list. We're not talking about like I use Gmail for my business to send my one-to-one emails.
Right. So I will say that it's marketing emails. They call them mass emails. So one to many, right? So you need to have those records in place, but oftentimes too, even with like something like Google Workspace, if you're using the paid version, you want to make sure they kind of force you to authenticate your domain as well, because remember, it's all about your domain. So for me, KarenGrill.com, right? That's my domain. So we have to make sure those records are in place for our domain. Like in the past, before these changes, if you use, let's say, ConvertKit or something, or Kit now, you actually borrowed the domain reputation from ConvertKit. They made all the things that needed to have happen, and we just kind of used their reputation. But this switch means that now we are responsible for building and maintaining our own domain reputation. And so it's a huge switch. I mean, I think it's a huge paradigm shift that so many business owners don't know. So even if you are sending those mass emails through whatever email service provider you're using, you still need to make sure your Google Workspace, if it's your domain, you need to make sure that those records are correct as well.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like the first mistake we're talking about is business owners not knowing that this is a thing, that it's something they need to pay attention to. What are the signs? Like, what would you suggest if a business owner is listening to this and they're like, I don't know, did we do that? Is there a way that they can kind of check and see, is this something we took care of, or do we still need to do it?
Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of technical. I will just say it's a little harder to see. I mean, typically what happens is people think they've either done it or they haven't done it. They didn't even know they were supposed to do it. And all of a sudden, one day, they'll see a huge drop in their open rate, their click-through rate, whatever that is. And they're like, whoa, what just happened? Like something dramatic happened. But that means it's gotten to a really bad point where it's done that, right?
We don't want to get that far.
No, we don't want to do that. That's typically, though, a sign that you've done something wrong. And, unfortunately, Google and Yahoo, they didn't tell us how they are going to penalize. The only hint they gave us is they slowly penalize. So first they'll do like 5% of your list, then 10% of your list, then 15. So it's really slow until it's not, and then it drops. So if you see that, that typically means that you have something wrong with your authentication records. If you don't know that, I mean, again, most email service providers have that. So even if you do, just Google email authentication and whatever email service provider, MailerLite or whatever, that will bring up the articles and tell you what to do. So at least you know that you've done that portion. That way you can check that. Otherwise, there's tools like MX Toolbox where you can check and see. Any tools, they're trying to sell you something. So you just got to be a little careful. Don't go for that. Just look and check your records, but don't buy anything.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a great point. Well, and it's funny because as you were talking, I can't remember who it was, whether it was like a prospective client or a friend or a client. I can't remember now, but they were sharing their screen with me, and it was like something in their email. I think I was just going to like help them troubleshoot quick on something. And the notification had come up about authentication, and they just clicked out of it, like without even saying anything. And I was like, it was a client I worked with earlier this year. Now I'm remembering. And she was like, oh yeah, I probably need to take care of that, but I always just close out. So that is a hint to some of you listening. You might be like Xing out of a notification. You're like, oh yeah, I don't know, that just pops up every time. That might be your sign that you need to fix something with your email authentication.
Yes. I mean, I always say, a lot of email marketers and business owners really focus on the content. And I always say the content doesn't matter if your emails don't get delivered. So don't skip that authentication step. Go in and check your email service provider to be sure. If you see notifications, definitely follow the steps. They've gotten so much better. They actually have steps. They'll tell you what you need to do. So it wasn't like when it first came out. So definitely always start there.
Okay. So don't ignore those warning signs. And if your list is if you're seeing your email open rates drop, it could be an indication that you have an issue with your authentication. Yes, so exactly. Karen, without getting into all the weeds of the technical aspect, so it's deliverability, right? Can you just explain? You'll do so much better of a job than I would. Like, explain to business owners why this is important.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just step back for a moment and just talk about kind of the difference between delivery and deliverability and what we're responsible for. So typically, most business owners think you click send and it ends in people's inboxes, right? They think it goes there directly.
In an ideal world.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, I mean, it's going through hundreds of checks and authentication checks and spam filters and all these different checks before it can actually even get to the other recipient, let alone the inbox promotions tab or spam folder, right? So really what happens when you click send, or even if you schedule, first it leaves you, your email service provider processes it and does what they need to do. And as soon as they send it out, that's delivery. They've done their part, they're done. All the rest of the checks and everything is dependent on us. And so to get through all those things, it's like a gauntlet, right? You're trying to go through all these checks and things to hopefully get to that inbox. And there's a point where the recipient's inbox makes a decision, whether you are rejected outright, you don't even get to their email platform, whether you're quarantined because something's wrong with those authentication records, or you actually get to the inbox. And again, that's not necessarily the primary, that's just getting to them, right? So, I think people don't realize how hard it is. And that's why there's like hundreds of different data points. And that's why it's really complicated and a little complex about how you have to do that. But at least if you understand that there's a part that you play in that, I think it's important that you understand so that you can get those emails in the inbox.
Yes. I love that you make that distinction because even I wasn't really totally clear on that. So I appreciate that. And now that you said gauntlet, like that's what I'm envisioning, right? When I hit send on my next marketing email, I'm gonna be like, okay, it's gotta like get down the path and there's gonna be like all these things that are trying to like stop it and get in the way and we gotta get it through. So I like that visual. And now I have that in my head.
Good. I'm glad.
So Karen, the other thing that comes to mind as we're talking about this is, well, okay, before I like take kind of a, not a hard left, but a little veer, is there anything else on this specific topic of deliverability, delivery, authentication? Is there anything else you want to say before I kind of take us down a little tangent?
So let me just say quickly that there are the three main records that you want to think about. And I know most business owners think, oh, I don't want to learn about this. I don't want to know about this. But I think as business owners, we have to know enough. We have to know enough whether this is going to work. We have to know if we even hire someone, we have to know, are they doing it right or not? Like we have no idea. So,
Yes.
The three main records is the SPF record, the DCAM record, and the DMARC record. Now, the SPF record is where you list all the programs that you might send emails for. So it could be a course platform, it could be a CRM, it could be your email service provider. So anywhere that you potentially send an email from, you need to have that on the list. And most people skip that. They only have one thing there. And I go and check and I'm like, wait, don't you use Google Workspace or don't you use other things? And they're like, yeah, you need to have that on there. Otherwise, what happens if you send, let's say you're Kajabi, you send an email from there and you haven't authenticated that. When your recipients receive that, it's going to get an error that you have not the right records. You might be getting spoofed or something else. And so you need to make sure the SPF record, you list every program you're sending an email from. DCAM is kind of those public and private keys to make sure it's been secure the whole way. We don't want anyone to be able to access it until it reaches the inbox. So that's a pretty easy one. And then again, the DMARC record is telling, when you pass, you have certain records in place that it says, yep, they're okay. You can, let the email through. So those are the three, the SPF, DCAM, and DMARC that you need to know about.
Okay, awesome. Super helpful. Such tangible bits that you're sharing with us. And I totally agree with you. I actually just had a couple of gals who are past clients of mine on the show, and we had such a great conversation about learning it yourself as a business owner before you outsource it. And so I'm so glad you brought up this point because I think very often, right, as business owners, we do wear all the hats and we are looking, to really maximize our time and get things off of our plate. And we are in a much better position to do that when we know enough to make an informed decision about who we're hiring to help with something or these questions we should be asking, right? Perfect example, a business owner may have someone who's already doing their email marketing for them to be able to go to them and say, hey, I just listened to this podcast and they talked about these 3 different types of records. Like, have we made sure that we've covered all these bases, right? You as a business owner are now more informed and then better able to manage whoever it is that's doing that implementation for you.
And I think it's so important if you actually make money from your email list, like if it's an asset for your business, because I get a lot of people who've gone to Fiverr and things and they didn't do it correctly, but they had no idea because how would they know? They had no way to evaluate. And so, It's really about, I think, educating business owners so you know enough. You don't have to know every single technical detail, but at least enough to be able to evaluate this was done. I have these 3 records. I should be okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I think this is so important. And again, we don't all want to be the technical experts in our business, nor should we, but you need to know enough so you can ask the right questions and make sure that all your bases are covered.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. All right. So the other thing that was coming to mind as we were having this conversation about emails and getting emails through and, using that as an asset in our business, my mind immediately went to some people I have met over the course of the time I've been in business who talk about how they add people to their email list technically without permission. So like, oh, I went to this networking event, I got people's business cards, I added them to my list. Or, oh, I presented to this group and they gave me a list of attendees and so I added them to my list. I see this so often and I'm always like educating, like, okay, no, you can't just add somebody without their permission. Like they have to give you permission to get on their email list. And so then and I talk about that. I'm like, well, think about it. If you got an email from someone you didn't ask to be on, are you going to respond to them and say, please remove me from your list? You might. Or are you going to mark it as spam? And so that's where my mind started going as we were having this conversation and really making sure business owners understand the importance of following canned spam rules for these reasons. And then what happens if you're putting people on your list without permission and then they're marking you as spam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as business owners, getting marked as spam is one of the worst things that can happen for your list because they implemented a new spam threshold and it's 0.3% of your list. So if you have more than that, your emails are not going to get through. And Google even said at 0.1% spam complaints, we will start to monitor you. So we need to do everything we can as business owners not to be marked as spam. And I think there's a couple of ways that often happens. So like you were talking about, if you just add people to your list, yeah, think about it. If you got a random email from somebody, you'd be like, what is this? And you get upset, actually. Most people do. And so we don't want to do that. And quite honestly, I think nowadays there's no excuse not to. You could do a QR code if you're speaking at an event that they can scan and they can sign up for your list, right? There's so many different ways now that we can do it. We have tools that help us overcome that now. So if that first email you said is, okay, if you want to hear from me, sign up for my email list. Okay, maybe that's okay. But we just need to get that permission, whether it's the Can Spam Act, Castle in Canada, or GDPR in Europe. There's so many rules right now. And if you violate them, it's like $50,000 fine. So, they're not things to, try to do or try to sneak around. The other thing that I'm seeing a lot of is people who, they have those creator network for ConvertKit, or they basically recommend other email providers. So you submit your name and your email address and you click submit and I'll give you a list. Oh, would you like to sign up for these other email lists and newsletters? And the problem is you might remember signing up for the first person. But a lot of times people, I think, even click the wrong button and they sign up for like 5 other email newsletters at the same time. And they may not remember you, right, from doing that. And a lot of people get marked as spam as that. So it's really important if you can tag those people separately, monitor them separately. Same thing for like big bundles and summits. A lot of times the person who runs the bundle or summit, you'll remember them, but you won't remember all the people you maybe signed up for. And that's why I'm seeing a lot of people getting marked as spam. So those 3 areas are so important. Again, we want to do everything we can not to be marked as spam.
Yeah. Well, and one thought occurs to me, and tell me if you agree or if you would suggest something different. Because I've definitely been on the receiving end of those where like I signed up for a summit and then I start getting all these emails and I'm like, wait, do I know that? Like, and I like go to markets. I'm like, oh, wait, I think I did see that person or I saw their name. Like it does sound vaguely familiar. So would you suggest something like if you are a business who's participating in one of those summits and you receive that list legitimately as part of, the agreement that you had, you're allowed to send an email to that list. Would you suggest sending like one email to that list to say, hey, you signed up for the summit, like spell it out for them, tell them where you got their information and then give them the option to actually formally opt into your list? Is that something that would be a good idea?
Yeah, again, anything that you can do to kind of remind people how they found out about you, I think is helpful. So, some bundles you do that, you get the whole list. I would send that first email reminding, even like in the subject line, put that summit because they're more likely to remember that summit. And then explain who you are and again, how you got connected. Sometimes during bundles and summits, they have to sign up for your individual, whatever, thing that you gave to the bundle. But still, they're not likely to remember that because they usually sign up for 10 or 20, whatever things that they sign up for at once. They're just less likely to remember you. So anything for that first email, at least, remind them who you are, how they get found out about you. And I like to have maybe some options. Like I talk about these topics. If you want to stay here, click here. Or if you don't, you want to be opted out, click here. Really let them leave, self-select out right away if you can. So you don't have to worry about it affecting your sender reputation. Because remember, anytime you send emails that people don't open and you continue to send them over and over, you look like a spammer. They really register. You can't continue to send email to people who don't open your emails. And so we need to be really careful. So anything we can do to head that off from the beginning, I think is an important step.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's such great advice. And actually, it just made me think about, I know that there are some email systems, because I've looked at this, especially for some clients when I do like an analysis and assessment of, their email marketing among, website, social, like the full deep dive of everything. And I know that some email providers make it pretty easy for you to pull a list of the non-openers. And so what is your suggestion of how to leverage that if the email service you have, specifies those contacts who haven't opened in a while?
So every email service provider, at least that I've seen, has some way of doing that. Some of them are automations. And so like if somebody hasn't opened in 90 days, it will automatically put a tag on them. So you know that they're a cold subscriber. So you can try to send a re-engagement campaign to them if you want, or just remove them. I'm pretty strict on my email list. So 30 to 60 days, if you haven't opened, you're gone. Like I just don't even do that. And that's why I can maintain super high open rates and engagement rates, because I only have people on my list who really want to stay. Because the problem is if you have a lot of cold subscribers, so people who haven't opened 60 to 90 days, that means you could be getting penalized, and people who actually want to read your email don't get to read it. We don't get to choose who gets to see it. When we're getting penalized, we don't know who that is. It's just some percent, right? So I always want to make sure that people who sign up for my list, who are active engagers, who open, want to click, all those things, that they actually get my emails. And so I do that by making sure I have very low cold subscribers.
Karen is strict. I love it. She's got rules. She sticks to them. This is such a great point, though, because again, I think that a lot of times business owners might have the wrong perspective on it. And I've talked on the show about other topics, but email marketing is another one. Quality over quantity, right? Like, do you want a huge email list of people who aren't necessarily opening and engaging? As Karen is telling us now, if we keep sending to people who are not opening, that's hurting the deliverability of our emails. And so the people who may want to open them and click on them might not even be getting them if we're hurting our sender reputation.
And the problem is I see it mostly with people who started their emails a long time ago, because in the past, before these rule changes, you could send, to everybody one broadcast email to everybody all the time. And you didn't really get penalized anyway. Maybe you had a lower open rate, but you weren't penalized. But now, because we are in control of these custom domains where we send from, it actually hurts our sender reputation. And so it's a huge shift in a way, the strategy you need to use. I'm really big on segments, because I want to try to send the right message to the right people at the right time. And the only way to do that is if I really understand my audience, know what topics they're interested in. And sometimes like one email for everybody just doesn't work. We really have to kind of customize the message to make sure that people actually want to receive it and are willing to open it.
Yes. Yeah, that's so important. So important. So remember, quality over quantity, and cleaning out those email lists. I actually need to do that. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. And I thought about it actually. So this is super random, but this just happened to me. I went into my email list last week and I was like, I just got like 10 new subscribers in like a day, which is like not normal for me. I don't do paid promos. My list is very organic. And I'm like, and as soon as I look at the new subscribers, they were all spammy. I was like, what the heck? Like, where did these come from? So I immediately just checked them all and deleted them from my system, because I was like, that's got to, I mean, it can't be good, right? But I'm curious, just because this is top of mind, because it literally just happened to me. Are you seeing that? And what is that all about?
Yeah, I mean, so there's things called spam traps. So they have it so that, like, there's a lot of bots and things that are testing things and signing up for things kind of like you're talking about. And they're kind of nefarious. So I definitely recommend, if you see, like, a lot of times they're really weird emails, just like emails that a normal person wouldn't have. I think that's a good sign. I definitely remove them. I figure if they're real people, they'll come back if they really want to hear from me. So, yes, I mean, yeah, I think you did the right thing. I mean, anytime we see those weird emails, and especially a lot of them sign up, but then they never open or anything. So I'm really I try to have people set up a schedule so that they're checking their email all the time. So they're familiar. You kind of get familiar with the people on your list, and if you see some oddities, like some things like weird emails like that, or you see a ton of people not opening at all, I mean, you kind of know that that is an issue. So the more we watch our list, I think we can kind of nip those things in the bud and get them off our list so they don't hurt our sender reputation. But it's the people who never check their email metrics that end up having the problems because they don't stop the problem before it gets out of control.
Yes, that totally makes sense. I appreciate that. Yeah, and the interesting part about these ones that came through, the emails actually looked legit and they weren't all the same, but it was the names. Like the names were just like a bunch of letters. And I was like, this is so strange.
Right.
But again, I mean, this is another piece of advice, right, for listeners to be paying attention to your email list. And if you are not, make sure somebody on your team is, because you want to, like you said, nip those things in the bud and catch them early. Before they have the chance to hurt your reputation.
And again, especially if you use your list to, maybe it's to book calls, or maybe you're nurturing for some other program down the road, or maybe you're actually sell digital products, or you're making money from your list. If you don't stop those problems early on, you'll see the revenue decline. And so I want to make sure that you're able to reach the goals you have with your email list. And the only way to do that is to really be careful, especially these days. I think there's more scammers and spammers out there than ever. So we have to be more vigilant than ever.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, Karen, our time flew by today, and I feel like we covered so much valuable ground for listeners. I already know this is going to be like a very popular episode. I want to give you the chance. You've given lots of great advice over this conversation, but is there any last piece of advice you want to leave listeners with?
Yeah, I think, so many people hear that from a guru or influencer, whoever, just start an email list, but they never really tell you how. And I think before you even think about starting an email list, really think, what's your goal for that email list? Like, what is it going to do? So maybe it is for you to book calls or something, or maybe it's just to kind of to have a conversation with people to learn more about your audience. But if you don't set that goal first, that's when people kind of struggle with kind of what to say, what content to put out. And so I think, start with that goal, think really, and even if you started and you weren't sure, go back now, take a step back, think about your goal for your audience for 2026. And I think you'll do much better.
I love that. Karen, I'm all about strategy. So like you're speaking to my heart there. Like, why are we doing this thing? Like, let's make sure we're super clear on it. So it ties back to our strategy. I love that. Such great advice. All right, Karen, very lastly, how can people learn more about you and the work that you do? And if they're hearing this conversation and they're like, oh my God, I can't handle this myself, I need an expert. How can they get a hold of you and learn more?
Sure. Well, I definitely hang out on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. And then I have a website, KarenGrill.com. You can go there. And for your audience, I have a special page where whether you don't have an email list or you have an email list, if you go to emailwithkaren.com, I have a free resource there to help you out.
Awesome. Emailwithkaren.com.
Yes.
Free resource. Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all of these amazing tidbits with our listeners.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming. I think we've followed each other for a long time, so I'm so glad we got a chance to chat.
Yes, it certainly is. And as the email landscape, I'm sure will continue to evolve and change, we'll have to have you back on the show at another time, and you can keep us updated on all the latest email changes that we need to be aware of.
Oh, I'd love to come back. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.